should probably get started. Welcome to the CPC January 2022 quarterly meeting. And I would just like to start the meeting by acknowledging that we're the Ilihu, we're on Kalapuya land. And just take 10 seconds to contemplate that, if we could, please. Thank you. Okay, the first thing I want to do is just go through the introductions and have everybody say who they are, what side they're on, you know, the usual. Why don't we start with you, Jess?
Hey, I'm Jesse Carey Hobbs, Natural Area Operations Supervisor for Parks and Open Space and your liaison to the City of Eugene.
I'm Laurel Burke. I'm the chair of the CPC from the Eugene side. Go ahead, Vicki.
I'm Vicki Mello. I'm vice chair and I'm in Eugene. I'm also chair of the Government Relations Subcommittee.
Eric.
Evening, everybody. Eric Adams, Planning, Parks and Facilities Director with Whilamut.
Brett.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brett Parsons, the Natural Resource Specialist with Whilamut. Thanks.
Meredith.
Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Jacobson, CPC member. I live on the Eugene side.
Thank you. Bill.
Bill Maloney. I live in Quail Run, adjacent to the park and adjacent to both Springfield and Eugene, and I walk in the park most every day.
Thank you. Joseph.
Joseph Calverth. I'm Springfield CPC member.
Thank you. All right, great. I'd like to start with an icebreaker question. It's kind of for more CPC members, but you all can chime in, I'm sure. I want to find out what your favorite talking stone is in the park, and if you have a reason why that is, share with us. Can we start with you, Jesse?
Sure. I don't remember the names of all those talking stones. I think it's the one that is the kind of the Whilamut stone, which is, you know, basically adjacent to the river, where, you know, where the river ripples and runs fast or whatever it is. Right. It says that you know, its place up on the high bank overlooking the river is a pretty kind of powerful thing to me.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
Vicki, you want to go next?
I like Goody Coot, which is just on the north end of the Knickerbocker Bridge and the surrounding stones. It's such a large stone, but I really love that it's one of the only stones that does not have an English translation, but there's an awesome picture of a frog there that Mark Andrews put on there, and I just like the shape of it, and especially in the spring when I'm heading over towards Springfield, and there's a little puddle or a little bit of a small pond in front of it. It just is really cool to see that, and with the benches around, I once in a while see people sitting there actually looking at it. So it's one of my favorites.
Thank you for sharing that. Welcome, Nick. Can you introduce yourself? Are you with us yet?
Yeah. Hello. Please excuse me. I'm a little bit sick today, so. I'm Nick, CPC member on the Eugene side, part of the outreach committee.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. All right, I'll go next. My favorite talking stone is Du'ukuba. on the Springfield side. It means place of power. It's a very interesting stone. I think it's one of the tallest, and it really does what it says, which is a really interesting place of power because it's an intersection of a very important transit path. A couple of transit paths go through there, and it's a really, you can really feel the energy of that rock when you're looking at it. So I really like that one.
Can I just interrupt for a moment? I don't know that we had David introduce himself.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, David.
I forget because his picture's not up there. Sorry, David.
I'll introduce myself, David Sonicson from Eugene, member of the Government Relations Subcommittee. And my favorite talking stone is Kamafima because it's at a site where the original walk to identify places for what became the Talking Stones began with Esther Stutzman, and she identified the little mound just north of the trail. It wasn't one of the original 11, but she liked that spot, and there are ferns on the ground, and that's what the meaning of Kamafima is in its English translation. And when this stone was put in, it came down out of the sling lifting it at an angle. That is, it was canted back to the north, and Charlotte Bem looked at it and said, "That's perfect," because the intention was to set it upright. But this way, people going by see the Kamafima name and the shadows on it differently than would be the case if the back of the stone was as high as the front of the stone. If you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's an interesting little tidbit of history. Thanks for sharing that. Meredith, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah, I'm still getting to know them all. I think that my favorite is also the Whilamut stone. It's like one of my favorite places to ride my bike, is on that path right there that goes by it. I try to do that loop whenever I have gotten up early enough to like take the long way to get to campus. And I think also, yeah, the stone kind of reminds me to like pause about kind of why we're all here in this place because of the river, why Eugene is here. And then also like, it's, you know, the word is so kind of normalized in like an English tongue. And so remembering that the word is much older than how we know it, just, yeah, feels important. So, yeah.
Thanks. Bill, I know you probably have a favorite.
I actually don't. I walk by several of them every day, and I haven't paid attention as far as whether I would like one better than the other. So I plead no favorite.
That's a good answer. Eric, do you have one?
Vicky actually took mine, but I just because I love the way that the Goody Coot just has this playful sound to it, and I really love the frog illustration that's on that stone as well. But you prompted me to pull up the brochure, so I've been looking for a second, and I do have also remarked on, I'll probably not pronounce it correctly, but is it Iliu?
You pronounced it right.
Means joyful, and I think that also has a really special meaning for that space overall, just given the joy that it provides to all of our community members and visitors to the region. So I'll go with that one as my second.
Thank you. All right, Joseph, how about you?
Well, you picked mine. I like that power corner there and that stone. But as far as locations, the stone that's over by the rookery is on that little walkway is my favorite walkway.
Uh-huh.
So
are you talking about Gani or the one on the riverside that's
on
kind
the
of
riverside.
riverside? Oh, okay.
And but I just like that whole section in there, and so I'll pick that stone as, and I don't know the name of it, but that's my favorite area.
Cool.
Park, actually.
Brett?
Yeah. I too like that Riverside path, and I like Gani a lot, just that area. Often when I'm down there working or not working, but using that area there, when other folks are down there, it seems like a lot of people are taking time to see something in nature around them, whether it's the heron rookery and the herons making noise along the river, or watching, people going by in boats on the river, recreating, or just there's a lot happening there, and it's a good place to kind of stop and take in the area around you and the beauty of it. So
nice. Nick, do you have a favorite?
I have a couple. I was gonna initially say Iliu as well. That's just an area that I love, like in a location sense, just where the paths all converge. And we have the Frothmeyer Bridge over there too. Even though the stone itself has a little bit of like issues with like vandalism and all that, like the fact that like we all kind of like come together and try to protect the kind of the meaning and the area of it is great. But another stone that I personally like because of the area is, and I had to look on the brochure about this one. I didn't remember the name until now, but it's the Whilamut, the one by the pond. I just personally love that area, and when I used to volunteer with Nearby Nature, we make a trash pickup loop around that huge running path that goes by Halba as well. I just really like the location of Whilamut.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Just kind of like harmonious with the water.
True. Yeah, and Bill just, I don't know if everybody got the chat. Bill, did you share that with everyone? The herons just showed up? Yay! Cool. Okay, well, thank you all for sharing that. I really enjoyed hearing from everyone on that. So I want to review the agenda, unless anybody has any other comments about that. No? Okay. Does anybody have any agenda items they want to add or subtract or adjust? No? Okay. All right. And has everybody on the CPC reviewed the agenda or the minute? I'm sorry, the minutes from October's meeting? Let's see. We do have a quorum, so we can approve the minutes, right, Vicki?
Yep. I move that we approve the minutes as sent out in our the email this month.
I'll second it.
Okay, everyone who wants to approve, say aye.
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 Nick?
Aye as well.
Okay. All right, approved unanimously. Great. All right, let's move on. Can we have public comment? What do you have? Bill, are you ready for your stuff?
Since I'm the only member of the public today, I guess I will make my public comments. Yeah. I've got a couple of comments and suggestions concerning the World Championship Marathon in July. I haven't talked with Jesse, so some of this may have already been covered. He may expand or change what I've got to say in his notes later. First thing, the number of participants in the marathon will be a lot less than in the Eugene Marathon. There'll be a few hundred rather than the couple thousand. So the actual participants will be a lot less. The big difference is going to be, though, it's going to have live TV coverage. So you'll have motorcycles running through the park, drones overhead, helicopters possibly. I saw in Jesse's notes that there will be 3 timing stations in the park with cars possibly to get the timers and the equipment in place. Let me check my notes and make sure here. Okay, there are also going to be out-of-town visitors in the park, people that don't know Eugene, don't know Alton Baker, that would normally be there. And I think that's the highlight there. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see the CPC formally ask the parks in the city to replace the motorcycles with EVs like an Archimoto. I don't know whether that's been brought up, Jesse. I think it would be a real good suggestion. It might be a good sell to Eugene to have something like the Archimotos carrying the cameras around rather than motorcycles in the park. We could do the same thing with the cars at the various timing stations, is request EVs, electric vehicles, rather than gas-powered vehicles in the park. I think we ought to suggest that the helicopters stay as high as possible. They've got long lenses, and keep them as far away as possible. They're going to be there, though. This one, I don't know that we need to make a formal recommendation, but the crowd control most likely is going to be between the dog park and Autzen Stadium. The start finish line is going to be at Autzen, and then they race to the west and then back around on the dog park side. And I can see people going back and forth between the start finish line and to the dog park. So there could be crowds going back and forth there. That'd be an area to be of concern. And then I think the other thing is that people who want to follow the race, they aren't going to be allowed on the course, and they're going to see that nice bark trail that parallels the course. And I have a suspicion we're going to need some additional signage or protection to keep people with their bikes off Pre's Trail. That's all I've got to say. I think it's not going to be as bad as I was afraid it was going to be, but it would be sure nice to replace the motorcycles, particularly that'll be going around and around with the runners.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid suggestion, and I agree that that's probably something we should bring up. So we can talk more about that for sure.
You know, the runners appreciate electric motorcycles too. They don't like that exhaust, especially the one in the front.
Yep.
And I know other big marathons around the world are using more and more electric vehicles. Even the Tour de France would like to, but there's too many of them needed there. But that should be a pretty easy ask for Eugene to come up with that. And I'm sort of in between here because I'm a track official and I'm part of Oregon Track Club, and I'll be working the event every day, although I won't be working the marathon. So, but I can put that same request in through my contacts with the officiating crews, that electric vehicles might not be a bad idea if we could do that.
I believe Ian Dobson's the coordinator, and he is very aware of the park, and he's a good Eugene guy. So
I know him well.
Yeah.
Yep. So I know we'll talk more about this at some point in the meeting, but I just want to thank you, Bill. Those are great ideas, and I'll talk more about Ian and his intent later on in the meeting. But I do appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Anything else on that? from anyone? Okay. All right, let's move on. We are starting to do the bylaws review through our government relations committee. Vicki will have a little bit more on that when she gives her government relations subcommittee report. And what I would like to do is to ask more members to come and join us in that process. We have a few, people who have been with the government relations subcommittee for quite a while and have been on the CPC for a long time. So it'd be great to have some fresh eyes. And I would really like to see that move forward so that we can start to get some processes shored up, around, updating that. It's been a little while since we've updated our bylaws, and there's some things that kind of need to be addressed. So I'm hoping we can get more on that. One other area of concern that I wanted to bring up. Hey, Deborah, welcome. She's on mute.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for joining
much.
us.
Yes,
Could you introduce yourself, please?
I
Yeah.
would be happy to. My name is Deborah Gelzer. I am a retired teacher. I've lived in Springfield. I've owned a home in Springfield for more than 40 years. And I have used the bike path from Springfield to the university and Eugene and all places for so many years. And I've met Laurel walking my shepherds. So, and I love peeling ivy off the trees and picking up trash. So I got recruited. And I hope my application was sent correctly to the right person.
Yeah, we can check with that. I think Eric might have an answer on that. Eric, do you know if her application got put in yet?
I think I sent it to somebody named McDonald.
Frazier, yeah.
Frazier.
Probably, yeah, Frazier, who's not in attendance this evening. Deborah, nice to meet you. I'm the Planning, Parks and Facilities Director, and Brett and I work along with Frazier at Whilamut. But he is on vacation this week. I will double check with him when he gets back on Monday to make sure that that was received, and we'll let you know either way.
Great.
Okay, so we need to have someone take minutes for this meeting. And so is there anyone who would be willing to volunteer as our either temporary or permanent secretary to do that for this particular meeting?
I can do it. Yeah, I would want to double check, I guess, on the last minutes just to remind myself if it's a record at almost every word kind of minute style or more of a summary style, but I can do it.
Okay, great. All right. Well, then you can I'll help you with the minutes this time. And then if you're interested in fulfilling that role later, we can elect you to the secretary. Otherwise, we'll just expect this one for now. No
Okay.
commitment necessary. Thank you, Meredith, for volunteering. I appreciate that.
No
Yeah,
problem.
thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda is the Nearby Nature Report. I'm gonna do the best I can, but actually, why don't we start with the Parks reports? Jesse, can you start with yours? And I'm just gonna pull up Beth's report and see what I can figure out while you're getting us yours.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
You guys, hopefully most of you got a chance to read the report. There's a lot of stuff in here, several pages. Obviously, one of the big ones was the, kind of finally starting to get some details, what feels, like it's almost last minute, but finally starting to get some details around the World Athletics Championship and the marathon. I think Bill's email when he saw it in social media of the course map was like the first that anybody that I knew in parks had heard about where this was going to be. So that's an interesting thing. And talking to the parks director a little bit about it, he admitted that he had heard nothing. I think that when we think about how that might have come to be, because this same organizer organizes the Eugene Marathon, I'm guessing that they, and we have permitted that event many times. I'm guessing they assumed that they were going to be able to use the same course, but anyway, the kind of the, obviously at this point, the horse has left the barn, and it's far from ideal, but had a good conversation with Ian Dobson about this in a little bit more detail. And the report I gave gave some specifics about the things that he was identifying in the beginning that might be issues for the park, were the things that I included in my report. So, having a vehicle at a couple of the timed kilometer marks in the Whilamut, having a vehicle with an RFID device that when someone runs by with a badge, it automatically tracks their time. You have officials there with a vehicle, and they have a little tent, a little pop-up tent that sits over the top of this thing, is the way this was described to me. This is still pretty vague, I think, in terms of their level of details around this stuff. The broadcasting, as Bill mentioned, he mentioned a motorcycle and or a small vehicle, the idea of using drones, and mentioned that a helicopter was in discussion for following the action. I think all of Bill's points around that are good and valid. Then there are, as Bill even called out right at the beginning, the road surface itself is rough, and I still don't know the full details about this, but there are going to be some work done to make sure that there are no trip hazards in this basically Olympic style course route, to make sure that it's safe for the runners. So the things that he initially said was, hey, I want to talk this out. I want to do what I can to try to reduce the impacts to the Whilamut. He mentioned that typically these big marathon races have these kind of large barriers on either side of the course that are designed to keep people off the course, and that those barriers usually have advertisements on them and all this kind of stuff. He kind of initially said that he was going to try to work on seeing that those weren't in the Whilamut, and try to see if he could get that passed. There's obviously a lot of people concerned about coursing in incursions, people crossing onto the course while these athletes are running. That's the purpose for the barriers, but then they also have these advertisements on them. He mentioned potentially doing some work around signage around a quiet zone. He mentioned staffing to try to keep people out of the Whilamut as spectators. So, there's a number of things they're trying to do, and I think they're open to having more discussions with the CPC and the city and Parks and Open Space. So I think, as we need to, I kind of need to hear from the CPC what you guys are looking for. Obviously, I need more information too. Together, we hopefully can have a dialogue with the marathon organizers around this. So,
Jesse, there is one thing that I am concerned about with when the city starts talking about improving pavement in the park, that I start to feel a little bit like that's, runs pretty contrary to the whole idea of the natural area. And so that is a really big deal, because it kind of sets a precedent for other incursions in that way. And it's molding this natural area to our needs as humans. And so, I just have a lot of trepidation surrounding that. And definitely the helicopters just make me want to cringe, drones even, because we have such a huge bird population in that time of year. Like what birds are we going to have in that area? And, so, I mean, I have a lot of questions and a lot of concerns that really I would like to bring up to whoever the organizing, if it's the City of Eugene Council or whoever, has the power to make these choices. I think this particular event may be highlighting some of the disadvantages to us not being at the table with the city. Instead we're kind of talking through a liaison. No offense to you, Jesse, but going through these layers does tend to be very time consuming and energy consuming. And oftentimes we feel like, at least I feel like, and I've heard from other CPC members, that we're not really heard. So that would be a big concern of mine. So,
yeah, I think, I think it really, as your liaison, I think it's just, it's important to let you guys know that you guys do have a voice. You can request, you can ask for whatever it is that you want, in terms of information, in terms of, conversations with city staff, decision makers. Like I said, this is very interesting because they don't hold a permit that as traditionally would happen in an event like this, where Parks and Open Space, and even the Eugene Marathon has one of these, where they have their proposals about things they'd like to do, and we review them and we say yes or no. We do have ability to negotiate this stuff, but there's also, as I hope you all recognize, this is extremely political. This is bigger than Parks and Open Space, bigger than the city of Eugene even. So, it gets to be, it's going to be a delicate situation. And I think it's okay for the CPC, and you absolutely should. And as a parks manager, I'm doing the same, advocating for what we need and believe in, but it doesn't mean we're going to get it either. So I'm not trying to silence anybody's voice. I will absolutely take anything the CPC wants and move it forward. And because that's what I'm here to do.
great, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Vicki, do you
I have a question. When there is meetings with Ian or whoever, how do we find out about it? Because I think the CPC needs to send some representatives to be able to listen and communicate also.
Yeah, I think what we're probably heading towards is a meeting with interested CPC members and Ian, and and having a conversation about it. All I've done so far is have one 15-minute conversation with Ian and send a couple emails back and forth asking for clarification of information. So, Ian is busy planning the marathon for the for the whole community, and Parks and Open Space is one piece of this. But yeah, I think it absolutely makes sense for us to all get together and chat about it.
Well,
Yeah,
and even sending some time a formal letter. Then would we be sending it to Craig or?
Sure, you can do that.
And what is it? You mentioned too, the director of parks and.
Yeah, Craig Carnegie is our parks director.
Right, and the other position you mentioned in a recent email was another position but I didn't see a name there. Or is there a parks?
Well, our parks planning manager is Carolyn Burke. So
okay.
She's kind of responsible for planning our parks system in terms of, how we use our park system, how we develop our park system.
Sure.
So she's another possibility. Honestly, this thing will, this stuff goes up to, Craig's boss, the public works director, Sarah Maderi, the city manager.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, you guys have a voice, and you have a voice through the city, through the city organization via me, and you also have your political angle through your elected officials and the mayor and council and that sort of thing. So,
Laurel, may I make a short comment on repaving?
David, did David want to say something? I thought I heard him.
Yeah, I do, but I
Go ahead, Bill.
Referring to the short comment on repaving.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
I've walked the course on the WNA, and the areas that look like that are going to need repaving are between the dog park heading east on that curve through the woods. There's an area there. And there's one I'm not sure that Eric and Brett know about, but there's a significant problem with the transition coming out of the park onto D Street. I don't know whether Ian's aware of that yet. I would hope so, but there, if you come out through the park and then onto D Street, there's not a good paved area there as you make that transition. So you're going to hear something there eventually. That's all.
Thank you, Bill. What were you going to say, David?
Let me just add three quick things. First, these are two events. I just want everybody to be aware of that. There's a women's marathon and a men's, and they're on two separate days, consecutive days. Second, I hope they're in the morning because it could be very hot and there's not a lot of shade crossing the landfill on North Walnut Street. And that's also the pavement there. I'm surprised that no one is talking about it because it undulates and there are some cracks there too. Also, the security for the entire World Championships is going to be extremely high at Hayward Field. And I am not sure that the people conducting this event are going to want a lot of people flanking the marathon course. I hope they don't, because how can you protect the runners from the unexpected? Also, if someone was saying that there might be people running hither and yon across the landfill to get to one part of the course and then back because it goes through the Whilamut multiple times. Anyone who's tried to walk the landfill cap in high grass understands how hummocky up and down and just unpredictably anomalous that surface is, which you can't see. So you could be bumping into an upslope on one step and then falling down into a depression of 6 or 8 inches or more on the next step. So that's not a good idea just for the health of the spectator as well as for all the wildlife habitat that it would be impacting. I'm really glad Joseph Calbreth is going to be a part of the event and wish that he can also reiterate these thoughts and add his own, because I know he's an experienced official, and let's hope for the best. And I thank Parks and Open Space and Willamette Lane Parks and Recreation District for all that they have to think about in imagining what the logistics for this are going to be. It's going to be huge. That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Joseph.
I was wondering, everybody seems to know what this course is. Where can I go look and see what the course is? Is there a website, or is it on Tracktown USA? Where did you guys find the course?
WCH 22 Marathon.
Okay, thank you.
Is that anything
So
else?
yeah, see, I just want to see if there's any, I mean, that's the biggest highlight out of all of this. Obviously, there's been some, some great volunteer efforts happening. Wonderful that the planting work that's been done with the help of the CPC and volunteers from Rachel Carson and LDS. to continue doing our shrub planting pods out in the landfill cap. Let's see, Priest Trail lighting is more or less complete. I think most of you probably heard that we finally got the horribly leaning and gross service cabinet replaced through great effort of David and Vicky and Laurel and all of you. So thank you for your advocacy and pushing us forward on that. It took some work, and just recognizing that it was not easy moving our organization to get that done. So I want to recognize your steadfastness and resolve in getting it done. So I hope it's I think it's better.
Yeah,
It's not perfect, but I think it's better.
it's vastly improved. Thank you, Jesse.
Yep. Let's see, Alton Baker Canoe Canal is another one, just to make sure you guys know about that. Basically that thing has been punted until next summer. We're now going to do it after the World Track and Field Trials. Thankfully, as we're kind of trying to figure out when we're going to start this back up again, we started to understand what the race course was going to be, and of course we're not. There's going to be. We couldn't have stuff going on at that spot by the parking lot there and have a race coming through there. So, and I know we're working with Whilamut as we're trying to figure out, when we're going to get that done and make sure we have agreements in place to get that work done. But excited to see that happen. I think that's about it.
Great, thank you. Meredith, did you have something you wanted to share?
Oh yeah, I just had a question on the marathon front. Is there any thought to like the opportunity for interpretation around the Whilamut natural area? Like if there are going to be spectators, like, there could be like one silver lining of like, communicating, or even, having our brochures, the Talking Stone brochures or stuff like that. Just curious if that has been discussed or not.
We are initially trying to talk about maybe closing the Whilamut for the duration of the race to spectators. So actually having people at the entrances that are kind of blocking it off. But there's no reason why we also couldn't have work and see if there are some messages that might make it into broadcast or other things that might, you start thinking about what kind of messages are communicated about our community and about the things we are, special about our community. And with the marathon running through the Whilamut, it is an opportunity potentially to talk about how special our community is, and that the Whilamut and our park system is certainly one part of that. So what do you guys think about that? But something I thought about.
Deborah?
Last summer, there was some big race going on in Eugene at the stadium. Does anybody remember that race? I'm not a running person, but in walking through the whole area, and I walk it daily, I met so many people from different parts of the country and abroad. And I would, sometimes they look confused. They're at the, the stand or the information. And I would say, do you need some help? And I would, and they'd say yes. And I'd say, go this way or go that way. And then the herons were so popular this past year. There was so many people parking and then walking and, walking their bikes in and looking up and just watching. It was so exciting. And I think, Meredith, you have a good point that even if people are not able to go through during the race itself, the next day they'll come back and do a recreation walk, or the day before, or whenever. But I think it really is wonderful. And especially the Talking Stones. They're just my favorite to talk about. And Ruth Bascom. I mean, it's a complete package.
Yeah, I like the idea, and I'm hoping maybe Nick can get together with Meredith and kind of brainstorm that as part of our outreach. If Deborah gets on soon, we can include her before the event. So yeah, I like that. So let's unpack that a little bit more, Meredith. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that is a good idea to make that an opportunity. Thanks, Nick.
Well, sounds good.
Okay, anything else, Jesse?
Nope.
Anybody have comments, questions on that? Okay, go ahead, Vicki.
Just one, I guess the location of some of the timing things. I guess I'm hoping they're going to be respectful of the talking stones and that there's not gonna, so that's another reason why I think some of the CPC, so we can actually see physically where stuff is and see if that they can be as respectful as possible.
Yep. I haven't gotten a map yet, but I think we should be, hopefully we'll get a map fairly soon that shows kind of the proposed, I mean, they must kind of know where the kilometer marks are, right? Already.
Right.
So,
Hopefully.
Thank.
Okay, so moving on, Brett or Eric, are you guys gonna do the Willamette report?
Brett, do you want to go through the memo? Otherwise, I've got it up. Not sure what capability you have at your home office at the moment. So
Yeah, I can run through the memo real quick.
great.
Not sure everyone had a chance to look through it. Fraser sent out earlier in the week, but just kind of had a summary of activities that our staff had undertaken since October in the natural area. A couple of the highlights: we've had 2 planting events of some native plant species, mostly towards the entrance to from the Heron Playground, the road entrance that comes down towards the boat ramp parking lot. And so that's about 160 plants that have gone in, mostly between the North Bank Trail and the actual entrance road. Most of these areas had quite a bit of ivy ground cover or compacted gravel from previous road construction, or people parking off of the road where we didn't want them. So this is kind of part of an enhancement of that area to get some kind of the final piece to get some native plants back in there and to try to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing and also better for habitat. And then we've also dealt with some ongoing issues with dying incense cedars or dead incense cedars and their hazard to the trail systems. And so we've started kind of an assessment of mapping those trees out and considering our options for that. A lot of the other efforts are around staging materials for planting efforts, both with the CPC and our own, doing some follow-up work with areas removed of non-native blackberry and other non-native species. And we've had some more interest in volunteer work in Eastgate Woodlands Park as a whole, both with kind of trail stewards and the more common routine ivy removal events. We now have a volunteer coordinator position on. Maggie O'Driscoll joined us in November, and so she's been helping to build volunteer opportunities through our Galaxy Digital Volunteer Hub site, and I'm working with Eric and Fraser to keep trying to provide those opportunities for folks through the winter months and hopefully going forward. Other than that, it's mostly some routine maintenance of dealing with down trees and limbs, also with trash dumps and some remnant sites from that humans have used in the area. I think there's a question. Sorry, I had my window closed. Looks like Meredith asked, is the incense cedar die off from heat stress? That's a great question. We are not entirely sure what the incense cedar die off is from, but there's a good chance that it is, at least in part, because of heat stress over the last decade, longer, hotter summers. And these trees maybe have just kept taking a beating during those summer months, and maybe along with some kind of cedar pathogen or other dynamics that have changed in that natural area. But we have around 30 instance cedars that are currently completely dead, and many more that are going out. And it's pretty much all of the instance cedars in a 5-acre pocket are on their way out. I think that's basically the summary of our report, except one more, I guess, at the end there is we've had a kind of a region switch with the park specialist staff that usually work down there. And so if some of you are familiar with the Springfield side, you might know Darren Hayward, who was working in that region for a while. Now with this switch, Matt Edgerton is the new specialist. He's been working with the district for quite a few years and knows a lot about maintenance of our facilities and our parks. But I've been working with him over the last few weeks to kind of get him familiarized with some of the things that are going on at Eastgate and the Whilamut, and letting him know more about the talking stones and some of the other topics that go along with this committee and the work. So I'll leave it there, and please ask questions if you have them. Thanks.
Go ahead, Vicki.
I have a couple of questions. One is I was noticing on the main path that goes by Hydwa, the fencing that was put in to prevent people from trying to cut across, and it looks like trees kind of crashed into some of that. And I'm wondering, is that going to be repaired, or is there more vegetation work that maybe it would be easier if you left that broken up?
Yes. Yeah, one of those cedars that I spoke of actually tipped in front of a person on a bike down there and smashed through that fence. And so those damaged panels were destroyed by a falling tree. I put in a work order for our structures department to remove the damaged boards of that fence panel. We haven't discussed the need to replace the boards. We probably will, or do something with it, just because it looks incomplete and kind of leaves that area looking aesthetically odd. But it does offer opportunities, since we need to go in and I believe the tree top has been removed already by the tree removal company that came and took the tree out. But it does give us opportunities to go in there and do possibly further work with the vegetation in that part of the natural area. So there's quite a lot of blackberry and poison hemlock, some other plants that we could really target to get out of there, and maybe do some follow-up with some native plants. I saw a question from Bill too about how about removing the fence completely. Sorry, Vicki, did I answer your question?
Well, you did. I had another one, but yeah, I'm just a little concerned. I think the fence was put in there so that there wasn't a new trail that went across to where the paved trail would go underneath the canoe canal, because generally people try and go, the quickest path. And so I'm wondering if it might be better just to put keep the fence there so that that isn't opened up. But I guess that would be good thing to talk about. But one other thing, it seems like there's a lot of different volunteer projects and plantings or removals, and I've been saying this for many years now, and I'm trying to figure out, what do we have to do for both parks to be able to let us know, or where do we go sign on to see what activities are? I mean, I heard about the one that was from Fraser, supposedly, that was today on Monday. And so I don't think it was just planned last week. And I'm wondering, how can we participate in some of these plantings or restoration if we're not notified and we find out afterwards? And so I'm kind of curious what would be the best. It seems like I'm asking this over and over again. What would be the best way, both Eugene and Springfield? How do we get notified?
We want to be in the communication loop beforehand, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great question. Some of that might be, I can answer for the Willamette side. Some of that might be a kind of lack of structure from our side and the way our programs are set up. I set up some of these planting events internally, and like today's planting event was mostly going to be done internally, and then it got sent out to a few volunteers that help us frequently. And I think Fraser probably sent it to you all as a, and informing that this event was going to happen next to this entryway. And also the fact that our volunteer coordinator is relatively new to the position. So we're kind of working out the kinks still there. There's definitely room for improvement on getting notification out early. And we would love to have you all both involved, but to know about it early on. We definitely want you to know about these projects. And then if you want to come participate or have say in them, we want that feedback too. So yeah, I can work with trying to get those announcements made to the CPC as soon as we have a concrete date or idea of that project going on, so you all can spread that around to membership.
Okay, thank you.
Springfield side.
Thanks. Vicki, did David have a question? It seemed like I heard him in the background.
Jesse was talking, but I think he
Oh,
was
yeah.
on mute.
I was
sorry.
muted. I was going to mention that, on the Eugene side, I think I've been trying to encourage you guys to develop a strong relationship with Kelsey Irvine, our volunteer coordinator. I think that's really the best way, because Kelsey is the conduit for all of our volunteer projects, other than the ones that Nearby Nature is doing on their own. So, I can talk to Kelsey about it and just kind of encourage her to remember you guys as well. But ultimately, it's a relationship thing.
Right.
I don't think we have as many, honestly. I mean, we're spread. We have such a huge system that she's spread out across a lot of things. You guys were involved in our most recent volunteer project out there, and really,
Jesse, if I can just interject for a minute, I really do think that our relationship with the city of Eugene has improved dramatically, because I am now having through the Habitat Committee, I'm having a direct communication pretty regularly with Kelsey and David and Lori Holt. So
that's great.
I feel like that's part of it's improved. And so I want to keep moving forward with that improvement. I think the biggest crux for this is mainly just knowing when things are happening on that Springfield side, so that we can get people involved, because we do have a couple of people on the Springfield side, Brett, that have expressed interest in wanting to get involved with that stuff. So it would be good if we had that information to spread to them, just sort of as a conduit for the communication.
I think Eric has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I don't know if he has something to say on that.
Yeah, thanks, Laurel. Just kind of adding on to, or similar to what Jesse was mentioning. So with our new volunteer coordinator position filled again, which it was vacant for a better part of a year, if not longer. And we do have an online volunteer registration and outreach software system, I think Brett mentioned, called Galaxy Digital. But it's an amazing system to where if you become create a user profile, log in, you can choose what types of events are of greatest interest to you. And I'm pretty sure we'd be able to create, sort of a subset that's unique to the Whilamut Natural Area and events that would be related to planting or ivy pools, some of the cleanup events that we're doing in partnership with Willamette Riverkeeper. And then ideally, we're getting those scheduled far enough in advance to where then Maggie is able to push out those notifications to the volunteer pool, whether it's limited to the CPC or an even broader audience. And then you can just respond to those requests for help essentially, and let us know if you're able to attend. But I think within the last 6 months or so, a lot of the events that we've pulled together have been on, I would say relatively short notice, and as Brett mentioned, somewhat in-house as well. It would be helpful, I think, for us too, to know how far in advance would be ideal for the CPC to find out about them. So we're trying to hit that target and be able to engage with you as best as possible.
Well, I think from my perspective, probably as soon as you've shored up your plans, perhaps just shoot us out a quick notification would be helpful, and then we can sort of disseminate from there maybe. That would be ideal. If we can accomplish that, yeah. Thanks, Eric, for that. I do have one. Does anybody have anything else? Because I want to ask a quick question that's kind of on a different topic for Willamette. Anybody else? Okay. So I don't know if you can answer, Eric. The kiosk at the boat ramp has had incomplete and error-ridden information on it for a while. Do you have any idea when that might be resolved?
So the updated kiosk map, is that what you're mentioning, Laurel?
It's the kiosk that has the Kalapuya Talking Stones information. We've talked about it before, but I think maybe it has gotten kind of fallen through the cracks. It's the information. It's on one side is it's pointing you toward the talking stone. It's saying turn around and you'll see the talking stone, but if you turn around, you see the parking lot. So,
right.
And then on the other side, it's cut off the CPC's name. So it's, I think that was a part of the revision process, but it hasn't been acted upon since January last year. So I'm just curious if there's some movement on that.
Yeah, good question. Unfortunately, I think the holdup is really with our community engagement department and just trying to manage workload across multiple demands. I have been asking for updates on when the final signs will get produced. And last time I asked about that, it was like next on their list, but obviously it's been a long time, longer than Brett and I and the rest of us in planning parks and facilities would have preferred, but they get pulled in a lot of different directions and we can't always manage the priorities that are getting set for them by other aspects of the district. So I will check in on that and see if we can get you an ETA, but it is still on our radar and ideally will be installed in the very near future. We did get the pre-sign installed though, so for what that's worth, if anybody's curious. We'll get back to you on it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything else on the parks reports? Okay, let me do Beth's nearby nature report real quick. She is saying she wants me to share the land steward interns were doing major improvements to their pollinator playground, pulling invasive plants from Wildflower Hollow. The Fromeyer Bridge was vandalized in November. Probably Vicki knows all about that. And it looks like the park hosts resprayed the stenciled mural on November 20th. So that's great. Students from Rachel Carson High School have been working on life-ringing trees in the hammer throw field and doing mulching. That's great. Decades, okay. The first Kalapuya dictionary has been published. That's a really amazing feat. It's been decades that people have been working on that. If you want a copy of it, Nearby Nature has, I think they still have copies, last I heard from Beth. The park host and interns paid special attention to English ivy this winter. They've been able to remove large patches. New lighting along quite a few major pathways was installed. Illegal camping is almost non-existent in the park. And the graffiti she's saying has declined, so that's good. Seeking volunteers who would like to help with litter patrol. Okay, and then camp registration for the summer opens mid-February. And she wants us to notify people that they're not hosting regular school field trips in the park this spring because most school districts are still not allowing for these programs, but they're hoping to do that in the fall again. Okay, Green Start plays in the Learnscape are happening monthly. No school day adventures are still going on this winter. And oh, they ended the 2021 newsletter for the first time in 2 years. That's been published. That's been ongoing. And it looks like that's it. The Nearby Nature website that she has for that, I think it's at the bottom of the report for anyone that's interested in seeing that web link. So go to that for more information. And that's it for Nearby Nature. And I don't know if I can, huh? Go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
Okay, just to clarify what Oral said and paraphrasing what the report may have said, the From Our Footbridge art was tagged rather than there being some kind of structural vandalism to the bridge structure itself. I think that's important to note.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. Anything else? Anybody?
I do have just one little comment, which I thought, I was on one of the Nearby Nature, I forget what they call them. Anyway, we were out walking out in the middle by the hammer throw field, and Jesse, you might get a kick out of this. There, we walked up on the sign and turned around to see what it said. It was facing east, and it said, warning, large flying objects are coming towards you. So, beware or whatever. Anyway, that when they had taken out the hammer throw cage and all, that sign is still up there. So I'm wondering, maybe that's just for historical purposes for where the hammer throw field might have been, and you'd be looking that direction if you did look at the sign. So I said, maybe I'll have to ask Jesse that. So I thought I just, I didn't know if you knew that sign was still in the middle of that field.
I don't think I did, but we ought to remove it. I don't think there's any historical reason to, if nothing else, people are going to be really confused by that at this point. There's a lot of people that don't remember the hammer throw field.
I don't.
Well, at the time, there was a lot of snow on the ground.
That sign not be destroyed and that it definitely be saved for historical reasons and kept at Nearby Nature, because I've seen it too. You actually, the sign, the face of the sign faces west, but you look at it as you, the reader, are facing east, and it is out in the middle of what formerly was the hammer throw field and has not been, thanks to the park plan, for a long time. But just getting rid of the sign is, in my opinion, desecration of history. I think it should definitely be retained.
You should check with Lance Steele and see if he wants it. Because he was the originator of using that as a hammer throw. And he may not know that it exists anymore. I'll mention it to him next time I see him, but it may be a while before that happens.
And
For the signage, it should be the city's sign to do with what it wants, but it is a historical artifact.
Mhm.
It should not go to a private citizen unless that person can claim some monetary contribution to its creation.
Our crew room in my crew room in natural area operations has a number of historical artifact signs. It's part of the lore of Eugene Parks and Open Space. We have the one from Spencer Butte that says, warning, following natural hazards: 1, poison oak; 2, rattlesnakes; 3, falling trees. And this sign was like up, screwed into a tree of all things, which we don't do anymore, on the side of the main trail up to Spencer Butte for many, many years. So I'm totally into it, David. I think I agree with you that these kind of things do have some historical value, and it does become a challenge to figure out what to do with them sometimes. But
Go ahead, Deborah.
Meredith?
House is so close,
Oh.
that would be the obvious place for it, and then it could be used in historical presentations regarding this part of our park system. But thanks for bringing it up, Vicki. That's very, very important.
Okay, Deborah.
I just wanted to say that I came across it, Meredith. I knew that was a place where athletes used to work or train. And it was a snowy day and I'm kind of clomping and it's so much fun. And all of a sudden there's this sign and it does say, beware falling things or whatever. And I just realized that, and there used to be a big net. I think that there were huge timbers or something and a big net. And I realized, oh, that's probably where the athletes had practiced. So if you go there, it's south of the dog park along the road there. It's kind of fun to see.
And
Hey.
actually, hammer throw is a big metal ball on the end of a chain that you run around it's an Olympic event, and you turn around 3 times and you throw it as far as you can. And those and it was just actually past Dehayaba up on the terrace trail, not too far away from where the oak trees are. And that's where the nets were. Yeah, Meredith was just asking, what is it? So that's what the hammer throw stuff is. Yeah. But we digress with this.
All right, guys, we should probably move on. Let's do the subcommittee reports. I guess I'll start with the Talking Stones. That one's pretty quick and easy. The first thing is I just want to let you all know that we're still continuing to try to get that green permanent marker off of Ghani and Kana'a on the Springfield side. It's just been very challenging to get, permanent marker off of those stones. Kana'a seems to be the biggest challenge. Ghani seems to be shedding it pretty well through natural processes, but Kana'a isn't as exposed to the elements. So it's going to take a little bit more finessing. I did some plantings around Ukuba, where those cedars were that Eric was talking, or Brett was talking about. They are now flanking that stone. And so I'm hoping that they'll start to take over to just give a little bit more cover to the area behind it. We have the brochure content draft. I hope everybody looked at that. It is absolutely gorgeous. Alyssa did an amazing job on the formatting. We've been back and forth with that. And once the city has gone through their process, making sure that everything is kosher with the HR and all that, that will be published. And we're hoping that that will happen well before our next meeting so that we can disperse those as much and as widely as possible. That's one of the things, Meredith, that we want to make sure we get done well before Tracktown. Because I think that once we get the printed version, then the digital version will be happening, and it will kind of be its own little snowball. So any help, getting that process going, Nick, would be helpful too. And right now we're just waiting for the update on the map, which should be much improved. We're thinking, I'm sure it will be. The last one wasn't great. So this one is going to be much, much better, I'm confident. And the boulders adjacent to Loch Me, I think they're going to go in spring once the muck is not as deep over there, but that's an ongoing project that we'll be communicating with Whilamut over. So that is it. Any questions, Joseph?
Just for your information, the Eugene Marathon this year is going to be May 1st, and it is probably going to be held in person. That's the latest I've heard. But whenever all those people come into town, they're in the Whilamut running and walking and whatever. So it'd be nice to have all that information before then.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a big influx of people from all over as well, even before the worlds get here.
That's a good point. Thank you. Vicky?
I think the brochure looks awesome, and I want to thank everybody, especially you, Laurel, for moving that through. It's been a long time, and lots of wording and wordsmithing and getting all the appropriate historical pictures and stuff. I think is a great job. So I appreciate all your effort. It's and the subcommittee that I think you're mostly it right now. Thank you for all your effort. That was good.
Thank you. Anything else? Meredith?
This thought just came to me, and I know I haven't been part of the Talking Stones or the brochure work, but I'm just curious if like might be the kind of thing that we would want to give like some kind of thank you gift to like the folks that contributed knowledge, like David Lewis and Esther Stutzman. I don't know like norms around that, but I know that like, yeah, they contributed a lot of time, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Esther is, she was really consumed with the dictionary, and once that got published, she was able to contribute a little bit more time to the brochure, and so she was really pleased with the last draft. So I'm glad that she was able to help us, guide that process. Anyone else? Okay. Vicky, you want to do government relations?
Sure. We are still meeting, looking at each section of the bylaws. We actually met in person, which was really cool at the beginning of this month at Campbell Center, and made a lot of notations. So I think right now we are gonna meet again in maybe in March or maybe earlier. So if anybody is interested in going through the bylaws and joining us, please let me know, and I'll let you know when the next meetings are. And the only other one was that we did finally see the replacement of the tilted electrical box along the path, and appreciate all the efforts. Thanks, Jesse, for getting helping us out on that. But there is so many different things, just back to the bylaws, that we're trying to consider and update them and see what is what's relevant and what's been done, and maybe fine tune how the CPC is working. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Vicky, I know for the ski patrol, we've done our bylaws by using Google Docs and going through it on our own and making suggestions of where we thought something should be changed, and did a lot of that without having to meet, and we could all do it on our own time, and then we would just post it and everybody else could see what we had suggested. I was just wondering, is there a copy somewhere that we can look at and make suggestions and do some of that so that we could work on it in our own time, as opposed to trying to arrange a meeting or to get everybody's schedule lined up? I don't know. We did that and it worked out. It worked fine because everybody got to work on it when they were free to work on it, and then they could see what everybody else did and make comments back and forth. So we did it digitally.
Yeah.
I appreciate the suggestion. It's just Google Docs. Not everybody has an idea of how that works.
Whatever.
But I found, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be on Google Docs. We just happen to have the setup so that we use it with all of our paperwork and stuff. And so we do it a lot, but we could just do it through emails. But that's
true.
Anyway, just wondering if there was a copy that I could get to look at so that I could put my 2 cents in or make, but see, but this way, we would have it all sitting there and we could all just look at it and change it and discuss it, as opposed to me emailing you saying, well, what about this page? You couldn't see it unless I had a
Well, if I can just interject for a moment. One of the reasons that we're not using Google Docs is it's been a little bit unreliable for us, but the track changes on Microsoft are very similar to the same functionality. And so that's where we've kind of put our efforts, and for sure, we will definitely send you, the most recent one to.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind looking at it, but
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't, it's hard for me to arrange a schedule for a meeting.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, we do intend to involve everyone eventually, but right now we're just kind of starting this brainstorming process with the government relations subcommittee. And then we're just kind of asking people to help us brainstorm so we can get the process rolling a little bit more efficiently. So, yeah, so we're on our roll.
Well, and I find that it's really helpful and it was really nice to actually meet in person. There was 4 of us there and trying to just chat back and forth to understand where people were coming from. So there is benefits to being able to look at it digitally and look at it on your own time, which I totally appreciate. But there is also benefits to be able to have the brainstorming and what about this and historical stuff and what do we do with how to store things and all that. But absolutely. Yeah, when we last updated the bylaws was last year in April. So there is a more recent one. And so I'll send it out, the most recent one that I have of the bylaws for everybody to see and just to start looking through. So.
Well, and the other thing is, for those of us who couldn't make a meeting like that,
Sure.
Was there notes taken about what you discussed that could be shared?
Right.
So that would be great.
Yeah, it's trying to capture all what was said. And that's what's nice about having a recording.
Yeah. Being in person, I totally understand.
Yeah.
But I may have time to work on it at 10 o'clock at night and not at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or at noon.
True.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Jesse, I think you had your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to share? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Going once, going twice, and onward. Habitat wildlife. Let's see. Well, as has been mentioned a couple times already, but I just want to re-emphasize how appreciative I am in working with Lori Holtz and Kelsey Irvine from the Native Plant Nursery. We did that shrub planting with Joseph and David and Terry. We had a good time doing that, actually. And then, of course, Rachel Carson Institute students, they were very interesting. They were out there planting with us, so that was great. And we have been watering the new plantings a little bit, if it gets dry, but it really hasn't needed it, obviously. We did do the Iliu planting during this quarter. That was a really big effort from everyone. The barriers, the logs, all of that stuff had to come all together in a very good collaborative effort for us to be able to have that project, be successful. And so we got a bunch of trees and shrubs planted around Iliu, and we're going to continue to work around that stone to get as much native plantings in there as it will accommodate under that big maple tree. We're continuing to remove false brome, although that hasn't been real high on our list recently. And that's mainly out of Eastgate because we've been asked to do that along that the river trail. We planted some mock orange and hawthorn near the Eastgate entry over by where the chicane gates are, and that went really well. We've got a couple hawthorns over by the Oregon grape, which was the big one that was stolen out of the ground. And so I'm hoping to have those hawthorns protect that area a little bit. And I think once they get established, that they'll be a really good barrier for people. So we should have less of that. I also planted some mock orange behind the Janice Morissette Memorial Bench. And I plan to, in consultation with Fraser, plan to get a few more things in behind that bench, just to make it pretty and really accentuate the native plantings there. And then the talking stone to Ukuba with the hawthorns were also planted recently. So we'll see how those take. I do plan to do a couple more plantings, but it's been so cold and wet recently that I just haven't really been out there that much to do planting. It's just not a really good environment for it. But we will probably be getting more of the red flowering currant over by the by Lock Me, and some other things that we have in the works. We'll see what we can get for plants. And that's it for habitat. Any questions, comments?
I just wanted to mention real quick, because you just reminded me of this, that we had another pretty significant Oregon grape theft on the landfill cap in one of the shrub pod planting areas in the last couple of weeks. So.
Oh, you just muted yourself, Jesse. Whoops.
Keep an eye out.
Oh.
There, and you see someone digging.
Okay, you should probably take your finger off that mute button because you keep going back and forth. There you go.
I don't know what I'm doing. I must be pushing the keyboard with my hand. Yeah. So anyway, keep an eye out for this. You know, you see someone out there digging. I'm sure most of you would think this if you saw somebody out digging something up or chopping something down to ask what they were doing. But it's a regional issue. It's not just here. It's all over the place. All of our partners in habitat conservation and land management are having this issue, and we really can't do anything about it. It's like impossible to stop.
One thing that I noticed, just as sort of to contribute to, you know, people noticing, a lot of times I think what they're doing is they're casing first. You'll see people standing around an Oregon grape, they're taking pictures of it, you know, they're looking at the dirt underneath it. That's like and that's what happened with this one in Springfield. Is I noticed this a couple weeks before it disappeared. So somebody is going out there and they're doing some pretty detailed research to figure out which plants they're taking. So that might be helpful in identifying like who is doing it. You know, there's like a reconnaissance thing that they're doing before they go and actually dig it up or hack it down or whatever it is. So I don't know. Be nice if we could catch somebody in the act and video record it or something. David? All right, anything else?
It's really disturbing to hear about the increasing theft of Oregon grape. It started, at least as we knew, at Eastgate, and now it's happening on the landfill cap, and that's pretty amazing that somebody would be that brazen and could walk off with a significant amount of it with no way out of the park except over several acres. And I'm so sorry. This is our state flower. It's the reason the University of Oregon has yellow and green as its colors, and we love it.
Yeah, it is really a shame. It's like it's a community resource that we're, you know, that we're going to miss if we don't figure out a way to protect it. Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments? Brett, you look like you might have had something on your mind. Do you have something you want to share?
No.
No?
Probably not. I was responding to Deborah's comment in the chat, but nothing else I need to mention. Thanks.
Okay.
I just wanted to add a little bit to that. There has been discussion about high schools that have clubs, you know, or maybe the Rachel Carson, where there's a focus, and there are parents who are concerned And I know that Springfield High School does not have enough proponents of people to engage the kids in activities that would create lasting skills. And I think that one of the things that I think about is for kids, high school kids, to get out in the woods and do stuff like do the removal, help with removal. And if I'm on this committee, I would love to contact, I know COVID stopped so much, but to make contact and to see how a group, 15 high schoolers can come out and appreciate, work hard, get recognition. So that was my thought.
Thanks for sharing that, Deborah. Yeah, and the Rachel Carson Institute is a really interesting group. I mean, the kids there work really hard, and every interaction that I've had with them, I've been really impressed by their poise, by their respect. Another up and coming group that I'm hoping to continue to foster relationships with is the Sheldon Youth Group. We had them out there this summer with the Talking Stones, and they were just a joy. I mean, they were just little sponges waiting to absorb the material, So I really do want to try to foster those relationships to get our youth involved, because as soon as they're really motivated and you get them engaged, and give them a stake in it, they're going to protect it.
Right. Next generation.
Yep, absolutely. Good. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Going once, going twice. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, at-large position process. And I guess this one I kind of just want to throw at Jesse. Don't want to put you on the spot, Jesse, but any new information on that at all?
Yeah, so I brought this back up to my to our management team, and Craig asked that we have our legal team do another review, make sure they understood exactly where we're at with this. Basically the same opinion came back, that there's that this comes down to engaging city council, that the CPC, the city, the CPC will need to kind of get this onto a council agenda item. And so as you know, I kind of asked for some clarification while I was on vacation, came back, had this conversation. Craig Carnegie, our division manager, said that he wanted to have a conversation with the public works director and the city manager about how we want to proceed with bringing this before city council. So I expect to be apprised of that sometime in the next few weeks as to what we're, how that's going to fit into, what our plan is to move forward on that. And I'll be then working with the CPC on how that process rolls out. This is definitely unlike anything I've done in my tenure. So, but I think, we have process where things go before city council all the time. What that looks like in terms of timing, how that goes about, I don't know anything about. So I'll ask the Laurel that, give me a few more weeks to be able to get back to you and let you know what we think the process looks like. And I will, and we'll go from there.
Great, let's learn together.
Yep.
I'm kind of stoked about this, because I think we'll learn some things, not just about this particular issue, but things that we've had questions about before. So I think we should consider this a really good opportunity to kind of sort through, some of these things that have kind of been a little nefarious in the past.
Yeah.
We just didn't know.
Yeah, there's a process. There's a process, but I will say, that it would be fairly unusual for a city sanctioned intergovernmental committee to have members who are from outside of the city of Eugene. So that is going to be, if we move forward with this, that would be a city council decision that the test for them is this in the best interest of the community. And so, we'll have to work on that piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, my argument would be that we're, the bigger pool of candidates that we can get and the more diverse population we can encourage, the more chance I think we have of, getting better retention. Because, the city of Eugene has been good in managing all of this, but it's been a little bit of a challenge to keep 10 members from the city on that side. So this will be a good experiment. Okay, anything else on that?
I think Eric has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, just a clarifying question. I remember this topic coming up maybe at the July meeting, but just is that interest in having, I guess, at-large members representation for just the Eugene seats, or is there interest in that being for Springfield as well? I can't remember.
Well, there's been some debate about that, and we're kind of thinking that because Eugene has the larger number of chairs, that going from the city to the at-large, which would include the entire Lane County, would probably be more appropriate than taking them from Springfield's. I mean, and we're hoping that it's not going to be looked at like we're taking something away. We're hoping that I'm hoping to push this as an idea that we're adding to it, not taking something away. So I really hope that, through this process, we sort of keep that in mind, that we want to include more people. And since since Springfield is only a third of our group, it was just kind of tossed out there that we should probably try to get those seats from the 10 that are on the Eugene side.
Great, thanks. Yeah, just couldn't remember where the interest lied, but that seems to make sense. And yeah, I think the opportunity potentially to not necessarily dedicate 2 seats to at-large positions, but maybe have 2 seats eligible for at-large or city,
Exactly.
in-city residences.
Yeah, exactly. Like if, for
Good
example,
discussion to have.
yeah, if we have, say we have 5 seats filled in Springfield and we've got 2 candidates that really want to serve, then maybe those at-large positions go to somebody in Springfield, but Eugene would probably get precedence. But I think that's what we need to explore. And that would be part of the process is, examining and kind of unpacking those questions. Anybody else? Okay. All right, next is I just want to wrap up and kind of go over our action items. I think Meredith's idea about the sort of a social media presence, I guess is what I'm going to call it, to get something on board for, publication or just to get the outreach thing going a little bit more. Now that Ruth is not functioning as the chair of that group, outreach is going to be a little bit possibly disorganized just because we don't have someone leading the way. Unless, Nick, you would like to volunteer to chair that committee.
Yeah, regrettably for this last cycle, it's, I haven't really spent much time with outreach, but I don't want to currently commit to like a leadership position, but I would like to be involved.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so we'll just have a couple of members, and if I could, Meredith, can I get you to commit to a subcommittee or 2?
Yeah, I've been like a little unsure on that process, but yeah, I'm down to do the outreach committee for sure.
Okay, and I'll keep you in the loop on the Habitat and Talking Stones committees so that you can, plug in when you can.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, anything else, guys? Okay. All right, can we pick a date for the next meeting? Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if we were going to come back to the bylaws review
Oh.
committee agenda item, but I guess you went through what you needed to when you were doing the government relations. So I had related to that a question and then maybe a request. And the question was, in the past, if city council or the board of directors for Willamette, if they've been involved in reviewing the bylaws as they've been amended over time, just wasn't sure what the history had been on that. And then the request is, as you're looking at amendments, if we could maybe talk more specifically around just the review of applications that come in for new members and representatives, and just have a better understanding of what that process is in terms of CPC's involvement, and then how that gets passed along to the board of directors and city council respectively.
Okay. Well, my understanding of the bylaws, and I understand that my tenure is not nearly as long as someone like Vicky or David, but my understanding of the process is that the CPC really we just do our bylaws and we just amend them. And if we have a majority vote to approve the bylaw amendments, we approve of them. So it's not really a review process that we typically involve either Springfield or the city of Eugene, because the bylaws is an internal document for the CPC. We do share, of course, because we're a public group. And so we always make every attempt to have both organizations up to date with our bylaws. And so that, we try very hard to keep that current. In terms of the process for applicants, that has been we've been very confused about that in the past. And so it's been, when we ask, usually it's been kind of a process of just navigating through the technology. If something doesn't work, trying to explain to people how it doesn't work. So that's been a little bit of a struggle, but Joe and I figured out some of the problems recently with it. And I think that we're on the road to updating that form. She's got a really good template right now that we're working through. It doesn't work yet, but she said that she's dedicated to helping through that process. So I think we'll be able to get that one taken care of. And then the application will be available on the website, she's saying. And so people will just be able to go on there, click on the form, fill it out, and then submit it to Fraser directly.
Yep.
Rather than having to go through PDFs and all that other stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think we'll still have the ability, if people would prefer, to make sure it can be printed in hard copy and filled out that way too, if that's the preference.
Yeah.
I guess my question or request was specific more to after the applications are submitted, and I know in the past we've forwarded those to CPC for review and a recommendation before they're passed along to, in our case, the board of directors. Just who's engaged in that review process, the timing of that, and the best way to ensure that that's being, I guess, conducted consistent with the bylaws, the structure of the CPC, and the timing, so that we can get new members seated in an efficient manner. So in looking at the copy that you and I kind of emailed back and forth over, it just mentions a CPC review facilitated by the chair, but doesn't go into much more detail around that. So just something to put on the group's list of things that you might look at more carefully.
Yeah. Vicky, do you want to maybe shed some light on that?
Well, it does bring up a good point, because I believe, especially for Eugene, because the two jurisdictions do things a little bit differently. Right now, I believe there is applications open for boards and commissions, and we have open positions on the Eugene side. And so if anyone does know of anyone within Eugene that would be wanting to apply, you have to go on to the board and commissions. And I guess I would ask if we have in the past been given flyers and stuff that advertises it. And I'm not sure if Eugene is doing that right now, but we could put it out in different places or to pass along to different members. So, but with laminate, it doesn't seem like there's, for Eugene, it's like from January to the beginning of March. And I'm not sure what the specific March date is for the cutoff for the applications. But it seems easier for any Springfield resident. It's kind of, if there's openings, the application process is 12 months all year long. So a lot of times when we would get applications, it is shared by the whole CPC. Everybody looks at it and anybody comments, and we've had really good candidates before. So when we get a completed application, that gets spread around, but sometimes we don't get the whole application. So that's where trying to get that ahead of time, get everything for sharing. So, and then there is a recommendation to go either to the Whilamut board or to the city council in Eugene. It seems like they've changed their process every couple of years. So we're trying to still figure that out. It used to be just the mayor and the city council, and then it was just city council and interviews, and then no, it's back to a variety of ways of doing it. So, but it's a good time to let everybody know that there are openings on both Springfield and Eugene side, and applications on the Eugene side can be filled in online, and it would be good to get the webpage for that. And
I think, as I understand it, just about in here, that they're planning on somewhere here at the beginning of late January, early February, doing the posting online for this. So you and I think that I can't remember who it was, Laurel or Vicky, or one of us reviewed the vacancies recently for the Eugene side, and I pass it on to the city manager's office, and so they're working on posting that along with the other stuff soon. So when I find out that we posted, I'll try to send out an email and let CPC members know.
Okay.
good. And we also do on our membership, we are finally figured out the position numbers and what the length of the terms are. So if there is a partial one, then I think David just lost his battery. If there is a partial term, then we recommend it's either a partial term or the full term. So there is some, and I think that's part of the bylaws to be able to select and recommend which goes to where. So sorry, Laurel.
No. I was just gonna, one other thing I just wanted to mention is it's easier for Springfield in terms of the open availability. Like Springfield doesn't have deadlines for their applicants. So that's one of the reasons that it's easier to plug in a Springfield candidate than it is for a Eugene candidate. Because we can have a vacant seat on the city side for 10 months, but it won't be filled until, the opening applicant process on the city side. But with Eugene, it's open-ended, and we'd really like to we'd like to keep it that way, just because Springfield only has the 5 seats. So that's one of the things we kind of want to make sure we retain if that's ever up for question.
Definitely.
And also, just one other note about the particular applicant is it does say in our bylaws that we want applicants who actually do work on the committee and who share the values and principles of the mission and goals of the park plan. So that's one of the things that the CPC members consider when they look at an applicant and decide whether or not we would recommend that person or not.
Great. Yeah. Thank you both. Didn't mean to delay the duration of the meeting, but just want to get that out there before we wrap up.
These are important questions that I think, it's good that we all get out in the open so we can make sure that we're collaborating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Eric, did we answer all of your questions or? Did we leave any hanging?
No, yeah, thank you. That's great. And we'll look forward to the update at the next quarterly meeting.
Okay, great. Anything else, anybody, before we get to the date, the next meeting date? Okay. April, last week of April, guys.
That's not good for me.
Oh,
We move it up, potentially move it up a week.
Yeah, anything but the last week I could do.
Same for
Okay.
me.
I am showing that it's the 17th through the 23rd, right?
Right.
Okay. And let's see who, now I got an email from Sharon. She has a Thursday evening class. Does anybody else have a conflict with the Thursdays? Joseph, what's your thing? What's going on with you?
You're muted, Joseph, I think.
Sorry about that. I was looking at the calendar. We have a very, very busy track season. I've got track meets on the 21st.
That's a Thursday.
And I'm babysitting in Bend, which I could do the meeting from, if it's a Zoom meeting from Bend, but on the 14th, but the 28th, I'm available.
So you're not available the 21st, for
Yeah,
example?
I probably wouldn't be available at this time on the 21st.
Does Wednesday look better for you?
The 20th?
Yeah.
Well, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that.
Meredith, do you have any conflicts with that?
That should be fine. My schedule's not set for next term, but yeah, more likely than not, it'll be fine.
Okay, so you think you'd be preferring Wednesday or Thursday?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, Nick, how about you?
I have a pretty much open availability
Okay.
through the third week of April.
Okay. And Vicky, you're okay with the 20th?
20th is good for me.
Okay. Why don't we call it the 20th then?
Okay.
5:30. It will be on the Springfield side. And can we, Eric or Brett, whoever might handle this, could we maybe schedule an in-person, if it's, if we're able to meet in person, can we get a meeting room and then do a Zoom meeting as a backup?
Sure. Yeah, we can look into that.
And typically, we like the adult activity center, but depending on how many members we have, that room might not be able to accommodate us for social distancing. So that's something to consider. All right, so 5:30 to 7:30, April 20th is the new date. And I am looking for a motion for adjournment, unless anybody has any other comments.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay. Adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, I think we're done. Thank you everyone so much for coming. I really appreciate all of your
I have
input.
one.
Oh, go
I have
ahead.
one question though. Is there some way, Jesse, that we could capture what was in the chat of this recording? Because I know, maybe I should have said that at the beginning, because I mean, there is some good information that's there. And I know anybody that wasn't at the meeting, when they're watching this, they're not going to be able to see that. And even, David wasn't able to see what the chat is. So is it something that we have to
I was just looking at, Alyssa's not here. There's a little note under the recording is on, kind of on the chat thing. It says, account owner and everyone in the meeting can see and save messages sent to everyone and can share them with apps and others. I don't know what that means.
Well,
But
so Vicky, what I did was I just copied and pasted into a Microsoft Office document. So that can just be our backup.
I just clicked chat, save chat, and it says chat was saved. I don't really know. What
can
that
you point out
means.
where it's saved to? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I have it saved, and I'm gonna move it into a folder that I can more easily get to, and I'll send it on with
Okay.
along with Melissa's stuff. So
Cool.
Right.
And I've got a
Good night,
backup of
everybody.
Microsoft.
We'll have dinner.
yeah,
Okay, bye.
sounds good. Thank you.
Take care,
Thanks.
everyone.
Yeah,
Good night.
sorry, just one last little thing.
What,
I've
Vicky?
also put the some of the information from the chat into the where it was discussed in the minutes. So just
Oh, that'd be awesome.
as
Okay,
another
great.
source of information.
Thank
but
you.
Yeah, no problem.
Good. Great. Thank you. All right, guys.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good
All
night.
right.
Great meeting. Thanks, Laurel.
Mhm. Good night, Deborah. She's not even on the committee yet.
Right.
She walks her dog. I see her every single time I go out there. She walks her dog.
That's awesome.
Every day. She's a beautiful German Shepherd. All right, Justy.
Yeah, I'm just don't worry. You can leave. I'm just working on saving this thing into
Yeah.
into a spot. So I'll see you later.
Yeah, it'll take a
Laurel, and
little bit.
we'll be in touch in a few weeks. Okay.
That sounds good. Yeah, just send me
As soon as I hear something, I'll let you know.
Yeah, have Alyssa just send me the link and I can save it on my drive too,
Sounds good.
so that I can share with Meredith. Oh, you know what? Can you share it with Meredith, or do you want me just to do that?
I will. Okay, so Alyssa's gonna send. I don't know if she'll send it to me or if she'll send it to both of us. The link directly for the video.
Okay.
If she sends it to me, I was gonna then attach on this chat document
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure Meredith gets it for her notes.
Yes,
for
I get
her
it.
Meeting
Yep.
notes. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Take
Have a good
care.
night.
You too.
Bye.